This is perhaps the first of several little video lessons I intend to make, and this one is about major and minor scales, how they came to be, and maybe a little scientific explanation along the way so that you'll have a better understanding that this set of notes on our piano is not random. It's scientific, it's mathematical, it's logical. Understanding some of that can give you a little help with learning music. About 3,000 years ago, Pythagoras, the legend has it, was walking past a blacksmith shop, and he heard the guys tapping on their whatever it was they were working on, and these taps, if you will, sounded kind of musical. Now, this is not perhaps the best device to illustrate this, but he discovered that if you hit the same object with two hammers, one weighing half as much as the other, in this case my coffee cup, my knife, and my spoon, the handle of the spoon, if this hammer weighs twice as much as this one, it sounds the same. And so there we have, for lack of a better word, our first octave. And on the piano, an octave is one key, the same note up into the next repeat. And I'm going to assume that you know the names of the notes and so forth, so that you know this is C and this is also C. Well, C, from C to C, sounds like the same note anywhere on the piano. And the reason for this, on the piano we have strings that vibrate when the hammer hits them, and from this note, this C, to this C, the strings on this note are vibrating twice as fast as these. From here to here, it's twice as fast. So if this is vibrating 1 time per second, this is 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, and so forth. So this is the reason that this C sounds like this C, this D sounds like this D. Okay, I have to apologize. This video is going to be a little bit choppy because my memory card doesn't hold a whole lot of time. It goes about 2 minutes, and then I have to download it to the computer and start all over again. Anyways, just a few seconds ago we got into the idea of an octave, that strings vibrate twice as fast from octave to octave, and that's why the notes sound the same. And that's just something we've got to take for granted, that this C sounds like this C. And so anyways, the next most important ratio is what we call the fifth, the perfect fifth. Now, the perfect fifth came about when Pythagoras discovered this 3-to-2 ratio. In other words, if this one vibrates twice per second, this one's 3 times. It happens to be the fifth note of the scale, so that's where we get the so-called perfect fifth. Now, the perfect fifth is also referred to as the dominant. G dominates C, A dominates D, B dominates E, C dominates F. Now, it was Pythagoras that divided our musical scale into 12 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And he did that by what we now refer to as the circle of fifths, 1 and 5. Every one of these 12 notes has a dominant. C sharp is dominated by G sharp. D sharp is dominated by A sharp, and so forth. Every one of them has its so-called perfect fifth. So you can see in our scale we've got the root, or the tonic, which is the note we start with, in this case C, just for simplification purposes, and its fifth. We've got C and G. If you look at the number of keys in between this first and this fifth, and you go back the other way, you land on F, which is actually the fourth note of the scale. So you can think of C as being the triangle, the fulcrum in the middle of a seesaw. between F and G. So if G is said to be the dominant of C, F is said to be the subdominant of C. And this is very important to understand this tonic, dominant, subdominant relationship. If you notice, from C to G, there are 6 notes in between. 3 white notes, 3 black notes. But go back the other way, that same interval, that distance of a fifth, C is a fifth from F. We've skipped 6 notes, 3 black ones in this case, and 3 white ones. So you've got the root, the subdominant, and the dominant. Both sides of a seesaw in terms of their relationship to the root. So in the major or the minor scale, the most important notes are the root, the fourth, and the fifth. Now this is the heart of both the C major and the C minor scales. To determine whether you are playing C major or C minor, that is determined by the third. Okay, so a third is another type of musical interval, and an interval in music is a relationship of one note to the other. So we've established that we've got the fifth and the fourth. So our next interval we've got to look at is a third. And of course there's seconds, sixths, and sevenths, and then the eighth, which is the octave. But interval is basically the distance between 2 notes. So when we make a basic triad, which is a chord with 3 notes, a 3-note chord, triad, it's the first, the fifth, and the third. The third is in between the first and the fifth. Big surprise there, right? Well, there's no point exactly in the middle, so we have to choose one. If you look at how many notes there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the precise midpoint would be between these 2 keys. So we have to choose one. A chord is said to be major if it's got a major third. Now, with this center point between these 2 notes, we have to pick one, and if we pick the one to the right, that's the major. If we pick the one to the left, that's the minor. So C major, C minor, F major, F minor, G major, G minor. So you can see that all of our root position chords, 1 and 5, depend on the type of minor, the type of third that we pick out. C major, C minor. 4 chord, F chord, F major, F minor, 5 chord, G major, G minor. So the important part here is to learn about this third in between. That is where our scales come from. So in our major scale, our most important chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5, are all going to have major thirds. In the C minor scale, the most important chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5, will have minor thirds. Now, that doesn't always work that way in music. There's a lot of variables. Usually your 5th chord in a song in a minor key will be major, but that's for a whole different lesson. The reason I keep stressing this so much about this 1, 4, 5 is because so much of our music, most all of our Western music from the classical period on, is built around these 3 chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5. And you'll see here in a few minutes that even our scales are built around these three chords. 1, 4, and 5. So that is the basic difference between a major and a minor scale. And if we look at it, we said our one chord was C, E, and G. The fifth of C, which is G, the major third. So C, E, and G is the major chord for the one, the first note in the scale, the one chord, C, E, and G. The four chord is F, A, C. The fifth of F is C. The major third from F is A. And then on our fifth note, our fifth chord, the chord on the fifth degree of the scale, which is G, its major fifth is D, its major third is B. So if you take F, A, C, C, E, G, G, B, D, you get the major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now if you take that same scale and alter it and make it a minor scale instead, what we call the natural minor scale, you'll find that we have to have, an E flat instead of an E, right? An A flat for the F chord instead of an A natural. And for our fifth chord, we've got, instead of G with B as the major third, we got the minor third, B flat. So our minor scale is C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. So the C minor scale has 3 flats. The C major scale has no flats and no sharps. Here we go. C major we found had no flats. C minor had 3 flats. B flat, E flat, and A flat. So it shares the key signature of E flat major. So you can see that C major and C minor are what we call parallel. They have the same root note. They're 2 different keys. Because of that flat third, the flat sixth, and the flat seventh, it becomes a key with 3 flats. So it shares their key signature with the scale of E flat major. So you can have, when you see this is telling you the number of sharps and flats, and you have to investigate the music, and we'll learn how to do that further on to determine whether it's C minor or E flat major. Don't want to get too confusing with this, but just so that you'll know, and this works for all the scales, and I've come up with another example, the key of E major. E major. The one chord, E, its fifth, which is B, the major third, gives us the one chord, the chord on the first note of the scale. The 4 chord, which is A, its fifth, which is E, and the major third from A, gives you the major chord for the 4th degree of the scale. A, C sharp, and E. We had E sharp, or E, G sharp, and B. Our 5 chord is going to be B, D sharp, and F sharp. Okay, so we got the 1, the 4, and the 5. So with our 1, 4, and 5 chord, we can build our scale on E major. Again, we had the 4 chord A, C sharp, and E, the 1 chord E, G sharp, and B, the 5 chord B, D sharp, F sharp, and we get our scale E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and E. So we take the E major scale to convert the E major scale to minor. We flattened these major thirds, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp, which are the 3rd degree, the 6th degree, and the 7th degree of the scale, 3rd, 6th, and 7th. And instead of A, C sharp, E, we've got A, C, E. Instead of E, G sharp B, we've got E, G, B. Instead of B, D sharp F, F sharp, I'm sorry, we've got B, D, F sharp. So we've flattened these thirds. We've got all minor chords now, A, C, E, E, G, B, B, D, and F sharp. All minor chords. And so we take that and we wind up with the E minor scale. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, and E. So what you've got is what we refer to as parallel keys, because we've got them in the same starting note, E, E major, and E minor. E major has 4 sharps, E minor has 1 sharp. We call this the relative because they share the same key signature. E major shares this key signature with C sharp minor. Both of them have 4 sharps. E minor shares the key signature with G major, 1 sharp. So this is our key signature. You'll see this in every piece of music you pick up. And it's going to be either a major or minor, and you find this out through investigating the music, playing it, and like I say, that'll be another lesson. So my advice here at this point is to grab a circle of fifths, and you can get one on the internet pretty easy, and you'll find that, like in our first example, the key of C, our fourth is going to be counterclockwise and our fifth is going to be clockwise. So G is the fifth of C. Another example, D is the fifth of G. A is the fifth of D. When we go counterclockwise, the fourth of C is F. The fourth of F is B flat. The fourth of B flat is E flat. Going clockwise, the fifth of E flat is B flat. So this gives you the circle of fourths and fifths. You're traveling around this way in fifths, traveling around this way in fourths. And you can see with our example just a second ago that the key of C, the fourth is F, the fifth is G, the key of E, the fourth is A, and the fifth is B. So you can work out any scale on paper just with the circle of fifths. For E, we've got the E and its fifth. We find the major third right here, because that's the center point. To the right is the major, to the left is the minor. And then it's the fourth chord of A, fourth chord of E is A. Its fifth is E. So we're going to choose between C and C sharp. C is our minor third, C sharp is our major third. Our fifth of B, for our example, our fifth of the scale of E was B. And so our fifth from there is F sharp, B to F sharp. So we choose either a major, a minor, minor or major, and that will give us the major or minor chord for the fifth degree of the scale. Now, I hope that's not too confusing, but basically I just wanted to give a reasonable explanation of the differences between major and minor scales and a little bit of the science about how they came about. And in later lessons we'll dive into this further. And if you get confused, remember the relationships, the sets of intervals are always the same. So you can always go back to your key of C. 1, That's major. Make all those major chords minor, and we get the C minor scale. 1, 4, 5. So you get a scale that has C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C. Work it out on paper, study it, you'll get it. It probably sounds intimidating at first if this is your first encounter with this, but believe me,